we risk becoming an island of strangers.
We will strive for the denazification of Ukraine.
Let me put it to you,
Can't grow concrete.
Yes, you can.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the dinosaurs.
Under the EU, we weren't allowed to eat crisps.
I just think everyone should be shot.
What the fuck is going on? Hello, I'm Mark Steele. Welcome to my podcast where each week we ask the question with increasing jollity, vivacity and joie de vivre. What the fuck is going on?
What the fuck is going on?
This week, my guest is Mothin Ali. Mothin is a deputy leader of the Green Party, one who has come in for, even by the standards of the craziness of some of the people that run our publications in this country, some of the most abrasive and unpleasant pile of nonsense, which we will no doubt come on to when we're chatting. It's going to be in two parts, this episode, like most of them are. The second half will be out next week. If you can't wait, and it's probably best not to wait, because impatience, you know, people who say patience is a virtue. No, it isn't. Impatience is a virtue. And if you have that virtue, then you can sign up to our Patreon and hear the full episode right now. Just follow the link in the episode notes. For everybody else, here's the first half of my interview with Mothin Ali.
Oh, what the fuck is? Oh, what the fuck is? Oh, what the fuck is going on?
Every week I sit here and I say, well, the question is, what the fuck is going on? And I say, thank God we've got someone here to explain it. And you can tell in my eyes, I'm thinking, this person doesn't know. But this week, I can say it for real, because with me we have a man so impressive that he's wearing a hat throughout this interview, which endears me to him more than anything else he could say. Mothin Ali, Deputy Leader of the Green Party, is that your official title?
Absolutely, yeah. No, thank you very much for having me. I'm a big fan, actually, so I feel a little bit shell-shocked.
Oh, shell-shocked? No. Well, I'm shell-shocked. You're the future Chancellor of the Exchequer. So, the Deputy Leader of the Green Party is quite a thing to be at the moment, Mothin, isn't it? Like maybe a couple of years ago that would have been well, that's interesting. But now the Green Party is in a very different place. I feel like you've been unexpectedly promoted from the Championship and you're now in the Premier League.
We're not just in the Premier League, we're competing for the title.
Oh, that's the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing ride. You know, it's such a great time to be green right now. You know, I am absolutely loving every single second. There's when I started the campaign for deputy leadership, when I put my name forward, I was like, right, let's see what happens. Let's just go along for the ride and try and offer something different. Try and offer a working class voice, a northern voice in a very southern facing, very white middle class party. Let's try and offer something a little bit different and try and shake things up a bit. And since we've become elected as a leadership team, Zach, Rachel and myself, Zach's just playing an absolute blinder, isn't he? He's just doing such an amazing job. And it's finally giving the country some inspiration. You know, you can taste it. You can actually taste the hope in the air.
There was a very different situation, I thought, after the by-election that Hannah Spencer won. I think sort of a year ago, you would hear so many people in this country talking about how miserable the news was, which it continues to be, of course. Miserable, bonkers. We have a man who is the most powerful person in the world who is quite comic in his in the barbarity, if you like. You know, as we sit here, it's a couple of days after I sat listening to him talking about a gift. I've got a gift, and he's got this gift from Iran, a present. And the poor Jeremy Bowen had to sit there and on the news, the foreign correspondent at the BBC, and take it seriously and say, Well, the president today said that he's been given a gift by the Iranians, and you could tell that in his mind he just wanted to go, I can't do this anymore. And so that is still there, but there's an opposition now, internationally, I think. Massive march this weekend in America against the president, and in most countries now there's an opposition to it. And in Britain, the opposition comes in many ways, but one of those ways is the growth of the Green Party. And I think it's transformed a lot of people's thinking. No longer do they go, there's nothing you can do. Now there is something you can do. And so I don't know, what's the Green Party membership now?
The last official count was 220,000.
Right.
I'm not going to give any official announcements, but I think it's verging on at least 225.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the growth that we've had when we stood for leadership, Zach, myself, Rachel, when we all stood on our separate platforms, I think the membership was about 55,000.
Yeah.
And it's more than quadrupled in size. It's like, wow. Yeah. It's just, and we're getting so many good people, so many energized activists coming along, people who want to get involved, people who feel like they can finally make a difference. You know, we've got, how you were just talking about how we've got opposition to fascism, basically. We've got lots of ways of doing it. We've got what you do with your comedy. We've got people who do the arts. But in the political sphere, where it also matters, we've finally got an opposition that is quite gutsy. You know, is not afraid of the tabloid papers and the smears. Let's just take it on and let's just be our authentic selves and make sure that we put a voice across for ordinary people.
Well, the tabloid opposition and the smears, not just from the tabloids, but from all sorts of people. We'll come on to that in a moment, because I think we both know that that's coming in there's a storm of that going to be coming now, because they take you seriously. Partly, not entirely, but partly because of the result of the Gorton and Denton by-election. But I just want to talk about that for a minute. So during that by-election, when was the time you thought we could win this? Was it as soon as Andy Burnham was stopped?
I only thought we could win it before the by-election was announced. So myself and Faiz Hassan, who's our elections coordinator, we had a conversation last February.
Right.
And said, this a by-election that we can actually win. And then lots of other things happened, lots of other things got in the way. And then when the by-election was called, we were like, right, we need to get into action straight away. So you had an idea that the guy, what was it? The guy who was with his dodgy WhatsApp messages, that he would be made to stand down? Yeah, I mean, as soon as he had the Labour whip withdrawn, anyone with a political mind has to say, right, okay, he's going to either stand down or he's going to be expelled from Labour. Something's going to happen there. We've got to be prepared. So we had our eye on it. And but once the by-election was announced, it was all of a sudden, you know, action straight away. The team just arrived on the ground. They took on a dingy office that was a complete wreck.
Right.
There were people working in there with no lights, with no heating, just wrapped up in their coats, just tapping.
That's very green, by the way. No lights and no heating. People would have thought, oh, well, they stick by their principles. They don't go wasting energy. But it's just because all the electrics were fucked.
Just nothing was working. But I mean, such an amazing campaign, so efficient. You know, I think we did something like 40 different pieces of literature. We've had over 5,000 individual activists rock up who wanted to play a part in making history. And I think that's what we've done in Gorton and Denton. We brought a local plumber, someone who the likes of Parliament has very rarely seen before, and we put her in one of the highest offices in the country. And it's like, it's just amazing. If Hannah, the plumber, can do it, then it gives hope to anyone.
So she was, I think everyone would agree, even the most hostile people would agree she was a brilliant candidate. But at what point do you know that it's going your way? Can you tell with these elections when you're banging on doors and can you tell the sort of, because obviously lots of people will say they're going to vote for you, but then you might think, yeah, but I bet they say that to everyone who comes round. Or do you get a feel of like, we're going to win this? Do you know which areas are going to be yours and which aren't?
The thing is, when you start having conversations with people on the doors, you can tell what's an honest conversation and what's not. You can tell when someone's being genuine and when someone's just trying to fob you off. Yeah, I'll vote for you, go away. But when they're actually shaking your hand and saying, look, I'm really happy you're here.
Yeah.
And you're finally giving us something to believe in. When you're hearing that time and time again, you know you're doing something right. I think it was like the second or third week into the campaign. I was up there a couple of nights, maybe 3 or 4 nights a week. My wife thought I'd run away at one point. So me and Fives were up there all pretty much every single week doing, we'd practically moved our camp over there. And when you're having those conversations with people and they're telling you that there's, really, really happy to see you, that was just like, we're going to win this. We're not just going to be contenders. We're going to absolutely win this. And I had that feeling from maybe middle of week 3.
Right. So, sorry, this is annoying. I can't seem to stop that. So, when the time when I thought, maybe there's something we haven't spotted, and this is age probably doing this. When Labour flooded the whole area with leaflets about drugs, the Green Party will sell drugs to your kids. Keir Starmer, didn't he say that you're the Green Party? It turns my stomach as the father of a teenage son, it turns my stomach that the Green Party want to encourage people to sell drugs to my son. Which is, but when they flooded the place with that, I thought, is this working? And you can't help, or I couldn't help think, once people are bombarded with this sort of propaganda, that eventually some of it's going to rub off. And maybe it did, but not enough that it made any difference.
Once you start going down the route of negative campaigning like that, then you're clutching at straws and you're showing your desperation. And I think that's what Keir Starmer was. He was absolutely desperate. I'm the father of a teenage son, teenage daughter. I've got, my youngest is 8. And if Keir Starmer doesn't know that his son can get drugs just by picking up the phone, pretty much anywhere in this country, he can probably get drugs delivered to his door if he wanted to. If he's not that aware, I don't know what he's doing as Prime Minister. It's absolutely ludicrous. I represent a really deprived area in Leeds. Drug dealers on every single street corner. And people are actually scared to walk down those streets because there's gangs operating there. And when you've got things like that, the war on drugs just isn't working. So we've got to try something new. We've got to try something different, and we've got to make sure that we're doing a fact-based, science-led alternative. So when Keir Starmer's trying to misrepresent us and is using the dispatch box in Parliament to campaign, it just smacks of desperation. That was telling me that the Labour Party are completely out of ideas. They don't know which way to look. They don't know what to try next, and they're just trying to use that platform to have a go. And when he's doing that, people just don't take him seriously anymore.
Well, I think I think they don't take him seriously, partly maybe because of that, but also they stop listening anyway, most people. Some will, but most people have probably already. So he could say anything. He could say the Green Party will force herds of wild livestock to run through your house. Is that what you want by voting Green? A hippo in your kitchen? And people go, yeah, whatever. And I think also there were 2 leaflets that were produced that really I thought was so. I know the bit of me that just, never mind the politics of it, the sheer brazen dishonesty of it. One that said only Labour can stop reform, and they had a chart, a little bar chart, with Labour on whatever they said Labour was on, 28%, I don't know, and reform a little bit above that, 29% or something, which, let's say it was accurate, it may have been, I can't remember, but the Green Party one wasn't on there at all. So they just left it off. I said to someone, it'd be like, because I'm a Crystal Palace fan, it'd be like if I said, Crystal Palace are top of the Premier League and produced a league table missing out the 14 clubs that are above us. Look at us. We're top of the league. It's just, you can't miss out the party that clearly is, even if you say you're ahead of them, you can't just miss them out. And then the other one was the think tank that they produced, that on the day before, that there was a think tank, was that what it was called, that said that that Labour were now the best way of stopping reform. And they just made this up, this organisation. There was no such thing. It was like if you or I now say, we just say the International Cricket think tank has said that Mark and Mothin should open the batting for England, and we've just made it up. It's just... and then they put that in a leaflet and there's a bit of me that wants to go, you can't do that, but apparently they can.
I'm more of a bowler myself, but but I mean, that graph actually put us ahead of Reform and Labour. The one that,
Oh right,
and they just missed us off.
Just missed
so
you
they
off.
Just, it was right, but all they'd done was miss the left hand side that showed us where ahead.
Missed the left hand side. Maybe it was that shopping thing, that you chop the leaflets.
Guillotine, yeah.
The guillotine.
They did that by accident.
We've made them now. We can't not give them out.
What the fuck is going on? Oh, what the fuck, oh, what the fucking fuck is going on?
I saw a sort of little bit on Instagram on the day of the election. I mean, or maybe I'm so stupidly naive, but it was the Labour candidate. Now, this isn't good. I've forgotten her name. That's bad,
yeah.
isn't it? Oh,
I know who you mean.
She thought she was going to be an MP, and now we can't remember her name. Anyway, she was in a van, and she's got some music playing, and she's doing this, and she's going, this is what it feels like when you've been down a whole street and everyone's voting for you. And clearly that hadn't happened. Clearly she'd been down that street and people had gone, and then I just sort of the sheer dishonesty of it. That can't...
I mean, one thing that I noticed about Labour campaigning is they copy what we're doing. Do you know, for me, that campaign was so much fun. Do you know, I had an absolute blast. And you asked me a bit ago, when did I think we'd win? So I was in Levenshulme Market, or Longside Market, sorry. And I was giving a speech at Longside Market. And this guy, I think he was a market trader or a passerby, he just stopped, he picked up a bunch of coriander and just started jumping up and down saying, vote green, waving this bunch of coriander about. And I was like, that's, completely unchoreographed. We've never spoken to this guy before, and he's just picking up coriander and telling everyone to vote green.
See, that is, I know you're very much a gardening man,
Yeah.
Mothin, and that is brilliant that you, even in that moment, were able to spot which particular herb it was. I think other politicians would not have got that, but you were going, oh, I wonder, he's probably grown that in the last couple of weeks.
Is it coriander or is it parsley? They look quite similar.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, I mean...
You don't want to be like the Labour Party now and misrepresenting the man.
The parsley leaf is a bit bigger and a bit fatter, so that's how you tell the difference.
Okay.
Just from looking at it without smelling it.
Okay. So, we will return to the issue of gardening. When did you? Were you ever a member of the Labour Party?
I was. So I joined the Labour Party when I was about 18. Through with a lot of trade unions, as soon as you join a trade union, they sign you up to the Labour Party. Yeah. So that's how I was a member. But I never really got involved with stuff when I was in my early years. And then during the Iraq War, I got really sort of politicised. That first demonstration against the Iraq War, where there were about 2 million people on the streets of London, that was the first demonstration I'd ever been to. And I was like, wow, ordinary people are standing up and we're going to do something and we're going to stop this war. We're going to stop Tony Blair and we're going to stop all these illegal crimes. And from that moment on, I just got more and more into activism. So I always stayed on the activism side, so anti-war, very, very, very. But you
stayed as part of Labour at that point. I
stayed as part of Labour.
Right.
Got quite active with the SWP because they were very involved with mobilising people on the streets. They're very good at mobilising demonstrations. They're very good at mobilising cultures and bringing people down. So I was like, okay, I'll just help you, and. Maybe my Labour membership lapsed, maybe it didn't, I don't, but I was still through the trade union. And I got active with the SWP, and then I got really disheartened. So in my late 20s, early 30s, I got really disheartened and just left everything, just focused on myself and my own life. And got a little bit fed up with everything.
So was it anything to do with that group that disarmed you, or was it just sort of the situation in general just seemed too tricky to do anything about it?
I mean, that group, in some ways, it felt like they just wanted to use you as cannon fodder almost. But also, it was the fact that we weren't able to affect change.
Yeah.
And because we weren't able to affect change, it was like, okay, what's the point? I'm just banging my head against a brick wall. Yeah. I'll get married and have kids.
I wonder if, when people feel more hopeful politically, if the number of marriages in the country goes down. Do you reckon? Do you reckon the registry offices, they go, we've got no one, or well, because everyone's quite cheerful.
Well, how are you talking about at the start of this, the ride of the Green Party? This is one thing that I'm missing out on massively, is my home life. My wife barely sees me anymore, it's quite. I joke about it, but sometimes it's quite difficult, especially.
I imagine. Is she a member?
She's a member, yeah. The thing is, families automatically, or whether they're official members or not, they are the backbone of campaigns. Do you know, my house was the campaign base or campaign headquarters of my campaign, for example. Whether I was out campaigning or not, my wife would be at home, bundling packs of leaflets up, getting my leaflet rounds ready.
Right.
And then she'd get me packed up, ready, off you go. And this is the sort of thing that you never see and never hear about.
Yeah. What about the 8-year-old? Have you got him employed?
I took them out leafleting. I mean, do you know, this was my campaign team. When I stood in 2022 for the first time, my campaign team was my wife and my 3 children. Right. So I think Zachy was about 4 or 5 at the time, and he was posting leaflets through the letterboxes. So yeah.
Was he good if they came up and asked him what was the Green Party policy on local transport?
I mean, he was fantastic talking. He'll just talk about our garden all day long.
You'd have to vote for someone who turned up with a 4-year-old.
I mean, we because the party was so small at the time and the number of volunteers, you just had to find whoever you could to help you in any way they could. So my daughter, my son, they were in their 10, 12, and they were out door knocking and leafleting for me.
Yeah. That's probably contrary to the Human Rights Act on child behaviour, so we better be careful about that. So in recent times, Mothin, and I think so. This is something that I think is obviously going to happen, and it's already started happening, and it probably started happening already. But since Hannah Spencer was elected, that they're both from the old establishment and the Labour establishment. Now they take you seriously enough to sit and plot how they are going to attack you in ways that they may not have done. They may have sort of jokingly done it before. Zach Belansky once said he was going to hypnotise women or whatever. But they've not had a concerted... I would imagine that now, I don't think this is conspiracy theory, that there will be people within the Labour Party whose job it is to find ways of attacking the Green Party and stopping people from voting for your party, I would think. And certainly, and also in the Daily Mail, for example, there was one whole page the other day that declared that Zach Polanski is now in effect running the country. Did you see that one?
I didn't, but I would love Zach Polanski to be running the country because.
Well, he already is, according to the Daily Mail.
Just about Zach, he's just such a decent guy. You know, I've known him since 2023, right? He saw some of my campaign in 2022 on social media, and he was inspired by some of the videos that I was doing, and I was campaigning on my own and knocking on doors. And he came up and supported me in 2023, and I was like, do you know the compassion and the way he spoke and the way he worked? I just thought, this is a guy that I really, really.
Why do you think he's been able to connect with people enough to? Because it's not. I mean, well, I think to put this into perspective, even leaving aside any of the political allegiances, this is what I think this is. I'm right in saying this, that the Gorton and Denton by-election, and that's only an example of a sort of wider growth in the support for the Green Party. The number of times that a party from outside the mainstream parties, Labour, Conservative, Liberals, and in Scotland and Wales, the Nationalists, the number of times that a party from outside of those groups has won a by-election, which is a really hard thing to do. It's not like in a PR system where you can get so much of the vote and you get a member or two, or like the Scottish Socialist Party did in Scotland using PR. They got, 6 members of the Scottish Parliament. But to win a seat like that, and I was thinking, who's done it? Obviously Farage has done it. The SDP did it in the 1980s. Both of those parties had massive backing from the establishment, from a wing of the establishment. George Galloway did it. Apart from that, I don't think anyone else has done that, probably since the Labour Party was formed.
I think there was an independent that did it as well.
Odd independent MPs have done it, like your man in the Doctor in Kidderminster and stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the one I'm thinking of. There was one independent who went ahead and did it, but apart from that, I can't think of any
or
other.
Martin Bell or so on, but everyone stood down for him, didn't they? So I think it's that rare, and certainly I think this is the first time, apart from Reform and the SDP, both of which had this sort of huge backing and financial backing and so on, that no one apart from the Green Party, this is the first time another party has emerged to seriously contest the political system since the emergence of the Labour Party, which is 120 years ago. So this is an enormous moment. So what do you think has caused that?
I think people needed something. You know, people needed something to believe in. And it goes back to Gorton and Denton campaign and the way the Labour Party campaigned. It's just that negative campaigning. They won, Keir Starmer won campaigning on vote for us, otherwise you're going to get the Tories. Vote for us to get the Tories out. Not vote for us because we're going to make your lives better. We're going to do this. We're going to improve the NHS. We're going to improve the schools. None of that. Vote for us to get the Tories out. Okay, but what are you going to offer me? And people are fed up of having to vote for the least worst option. They want to vote for something that they can believe in. And that's why, this explains sort of Farage's popularity. I don't think Farage is really popular. Yes, he's popular in the media and in the ether. But on the doorstep, people who are going to vote for reform don't vote for reform because they love Farage's policies. Because working class people don't want to privatise the NHS. They don't want worse schools.
Yeah, but they wouldn't identify that as being Farage's policy, would
but,
they?
But they don't, because they don't know that, right? They think, Farage is the opposition to the establishment. Because that's how they're marketing themselves, rather than Farage is part of the establishment. So when we go to knock on people's doors and have those conversations with them, and they hear us speak, and we're actually talking about putting more funding into the NHS, putting more funding into schools, making people's lives better, they're like, all right, there's something that we can believe in. When I won, right, in 2024, I won every single ballot box. Gipton and Hare Hills is very much like Gorton and Denton. It's got a very diverse area, which is Hare Hills, and it's got a large council estate.
Which bit of Leeds is it?
It's East Leeds.
Right.
So it's got a large council estate. But I won every single ballot box. A large part of my ward should be Reform voters. But they don't vote for Reform. They vote for me because I go out there, they see me working, and they've got something to believe in. And it's the Green Party policies, it's the Green Party ethic. I'm not unique. Every single Green Party councillor I know pretty much is part and parcel of their community. They're so ingrained, they're in the community centres, they're turning up at events, they're turning up at funerals, they're turning up at weddings, they're turning up at, pretty much everything that's going on in the area.
What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on?
So this is a huge part. I mean, I think this is where the left has not... I think that certainly in my lifetime, the left, when they've tried to make an impact electorally, they've not understood that. They've thought if we just arrive with the leaflets and say we're anti-war and we're, even though you might agree with all the things they say, they've not done very well. And I think they've not really understood that unless you're the one thing that can stop people saying, like if you've got a leaflet saying this person is going to peddle drugs to your son, and people go, well, him? I've known him for 20 years. He's not like that. What a stupid thing to say. The leaflet's worthless.
Yeah. I mean, this is the sort of thing that when they see you actively doing stuff in the community, you're making community gardens, you're helping with the schools, you're part of the governance of the schools, you're playing your active role as a good citizen in the community, you can have endless amount of nonsense in the ether. People won't take it seriously. Real people won't take it seriously. People who really care about what's this person saying on Twitter and what that person's saying on Facebook, those people might be really outraged and really involved. But ordinary people don't care. Ordinary people care about what can you do to make my life better.
So what then? So you mentioned there about reform, people who could, in other circumstances, end up voting for reform. And one of the moments, I mean, certainly when I was watching it through the night, the by-election result, one of the moments where I thought, oh, this has clearly gone the Greens' way, is when reporters were saying the votes in the Denton side were nowhere near as heavy for reform as it was imagined it would be. So it was assumed that there was this one area that was young and very Asian, that would be Green, but then the other bit was white, working class, reform territory, Union Jacks everywhere. And that area voted far more for Green than was expected. So what is it that a Green candidate says to a potential reform voter that swings them away? Do you think that they are a potential source of Green votes.
Do you know, if we think about the Brexit campaign, right, one of the big reasons that the left lost the Brexit campaign was, or Remainers lost the Brexit campaign, was Brexiteers are dumb, Brexiteers are racist. And they got into name calling. Stop the name calling. Have a little bit of empathy. Go and talk to people. You know, we still got at least 30% of the vote in Denton, which is supposed to be solidly reform.
Oh, that's what it was it? Right.
Yeah, Labour are saying that they lost the white working class vote. Yes, because we went out and listened and we had conversations and people saw themselves in us. I don't know if you saw my video that I put out a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I was going to come to that, yeah.
Now, I got a comment off the back of that video, and it was a Restore supporter, not a Reform supporter.
So Restore are the people that say that UKIP's not hardline enough for them.
Yeah, so Reform's not hard.
Sorry, that Farage is not nasty enough for them.
Yeah, they want to go even more extreme.
Yeah.
And he's a Restore voter, and he messaged to say, right, I didn't know the Greens had people like this. I'm going to vote Green.
Right.
Ordinary people want to hear politicians that sound like them, that are from the same communities as them, have the same life experience as them. You know, they want real people. They don't want these. They've gone to university, studied politics, philosophy, economics, then got a job as a understudy to a MP, and then become the next MP. They don't want that. They want real people, and that's why Hannah the plumber won, and she won so convincingly.
And it will be so. A lot of people in the area that you would expect to go, or that the sort of lazy end of punditry would expect. Oh, this must be a reform area. That 30% of those would vote Green.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So more people would vote Green in that area than vote Labour, I guess.
Yeah.
So that leads us to the accusations made against you, Mothin. So they, first of all, recently, for speaking at the anti-war demonstration, and you were called a terrorist or a supporter of terrorists for that.
I think terrorist is something that they pretty much call me every single day. You were talking about, do Labour spin doctors think of ways to bring Labour, the Greens down? And I think this is what they're going to try and do with me, is they're going to try and put me under so much pressure over pretty much anything. They'll make up stories. And this is a perfect example. Now, Stop the War Coalition, a really respected organisation that mobilises people against war. Stop the war.
And Stop the War, it was Stop the War that mobilised the anti-Iraq war march 20 years ago.
Yeah. And so they've organised another demonstration to stand up against Trump's wars. It's illegal. You know, everyone knows it's illegal. It's Trump and Netanyahu have led us into a war. We shouldn't be part of that. So we should be protesting against that, because when a British fighter jet flies, we have to pay for it. Yeah, we have to pay for it. That's money out of our schools. That's money out of our NHS. And at the end of the day, who are those kids on the front line? Those soldiers. They're kids from areas like mine, right? They're going to be kids from places like Gipton, people who didn't have any other opportunity. They thought they'll go and join the army, and they're putting my kids on the front line, right? So of course I'm anti-war. We don't put British lives on the line for so wastefully. We shouldn't be doing that. So I'm going to go out and speak against war, especially wars that are illegal, and especially that puts my kids at risk. You know, and I'm not talking about my own children. I'm talking about the kids from my neighbourhood.
Yeah.
So they saw me at that demonstration, and they thought, "Oh, brilliant! Let's post some pictures." There were some AI images with a guy who's maybe 2 or 3 times the size of everyone else, with an Iranian flag, who just miraculously stood next to me, right? And they've plastered that everywhere.
So who did that?
Well, my solicitors are arguing over this at the moment, because I never saw that guy there, right? And he's probably twice the size of everyone else in this image. that's circulating online with him stood right next to me.
It's quite. No wonder the Islamic Republic have been able to stay in power.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
so
they've got
long.
giants
All their
working for them. But, I mean, but they took a picture from an anti-war demonstration and tried to portray me as some kind of Iran regime-loving fanatic. I stand with ordinary people regardless of which country they're from, right? Alex Shellbrook stood up in Parliament and accused me of supporting the Ayatollah. And then Keir Starmer echoed the same thing. They said they did the same thing to try and create a wedge and to try and create this, paint me as some kind of fanatic. And it's absolutely bonkers because they don't realise, or perhaps they do. They might realise the harm that they do to people. The amount of mental anguish that put me through. Yeah, I'm not going to go into that. Yeah. But I was fearful for my life because of the number of death threats that I got.
So that was from, what is that, online or?
It was online, lots of the death threats coming to me, emails coming through to my council email address.
Right.
The police have to swoop, police have to go under extra protection, doing patrols past my house. Because that's how seriously they took it.
Right.
The last time this happened was during the Hare Hills riots.
Yeah. So what happened there?
So someone took a still image from a picture and they posted it online and they accused me of being the instigator of the riots. People said that I was out rioting, I was causing the riots, I was fighting the police. That's the sort of narrative that went crazy online. People turned up at my house and they slashed my tyres.
Right.
And the reality of it is on video. I was out. The police inspector phoned me up and said, "Will you come and help us?" So I went out.
You were councillor by then.
I was a councillor by then. I went out. I went to help, calm things down. There's video footage from me from 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening till 3 o'clock in the morning, doing the same thing all night long. Wrestling pallets out of people's hands, pulling bins out of fires, but the far right led with the story of I was the instigator of the riot.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of people going to court for libel on that.
So do you think you think there's a possibility that they will use something like that? I suppose it's not that unlikely that they'll just carry on shouting the same thing and seeing if they can get away with it.
I mean, the Spectator had an image on the front page on the front cover. And if it was any other party, or if that was the left wing making that kind of caricature, they would have automatically called out the image they made of Zach as anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
And they would have rightly done that. All the caricatures are there. They would have called out the image of me as being Islamophobic because all the images are there. For some reason, I've got a Pakistan and a Turkey flag on my arms. It's like, it just doesn't make sense.
What the fuck is going on?
And that's where we'll leave it for now. You can hear the rest of my interview with Mothin next week. If you can't wait, you can join us on Patreon for £4 a month and get instant access to the whole interview ad-free. Nothing's ad-free now. I bet if you're locked in a padded cell in a psychiatric unit, there's probably somebody speaking through speakers at you going, "We all like fish fingers, but have you heard of new jumbo fish fingers?" And that's not all, because you will be able to watch the full video version on your TV or whatever it is that you watch things on. Grass, the ceiling, the sky, at home. Just search What the F on Patreon or click the link in the episode notes. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast. Remember, if you've liked it, rate it, and if you can be bothered, write a review. If you can't be bothered, then take up meditating, take up yoga, go and see the Dalai Lama, find out what it is that is disturbing your inner soul that you just can't get round to writing a review. What the Fuck Is Going On was hosted by me, Mark Steele, with my very special guest, Mothin Ali. What the Fuck Is Going On was recorded at West Digital Studios. The music was by Willie Dowling. It was produced and edited by Mike Bedwell at Carousel Studios. A special thanks to Pete Sinclair. What the Fuck Is Going On was brought to you by WTF Production.